Happy solar return for the world. Welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4. The legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. Join the channel starting at 99 cents per month for exclusive, members-only content. When you join TURN on YouTube, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. On tonight's edition of Ralph Reads, we bring this novel to a close. However, it doesn't close out the saga. Tonight, we clear Book 3 of a 4-part series, C.Clark's Kenyatta's Escape. Part 3 of 4, which means one more of what this represents. Soon we'll go down that very road. For now, let the reading commence. Chapter 10. The ride on the airplane was quiet and uneventful. When the plane landed, Ryan and Benson got off first, followed by Evans. The three men made their way through the airport quickly, then waved down a cab at the front near the parking lot. It was a warm day, and the three policemen removed their coats once they were inside the cab.
"Well,"
Ryan began,
"we finally arrived."
The statement fell on deaf ears. The other two men didn't bother to comment. The white cab driver glanced in his mirror at the hardware his passengers were wearing. The sight of the open display of guns frightened the man, but after they gave their destination, the driver relaxed. He wondered idly why the officers hadn't had a police car pick them up instead of paying out all the money it would cost them to reach police headquarters. Their first stop was the police department of the city of Los Angeles. Here, they were assigned a uniformed driver who knew his way around the city.
"Since you're in charge,"
Benson said, egging his partner on,
"what do we do now? I'm kind of tired of standing around with my finger up my ass trying to look and point for these other assholes who keep watching us."
"Hey man, that's right,"
Evans said as he smiled broadly.
"Both of you,"
Ryan replied, then added,
"Why don't we get the out of here anyway? Give our driver a chance to get used to the car and all that shit."
"Good enough for me," Benson answered.
"Where the hell are we going, though?"
"Hell, I don't give a shit if we don't go anywhere but the nearest restaurant. We haven't had a decent meal since leaving Detroit."
Ryan beckoned at the tall, heavy-set policeman who had been assigned to their case.
"Hey, buddy,"
Ryan called out.
"you want to bring the car around to the front, or should we all just go downstairs with you and get in there?"
"It's all the same with me,"
the officer replied as he shrugged his wide shoulders.
"Good enough,"
Ryan answered.
"Why don't you lead the way then?"
The three men followed the uniform officer into the elevator. The ride downstairs to the underground garage was silent as each man kept his peace. After reaching the unmarked car, the three men piled in, with Ryan getting in the front seat next to the driver.
"Hey, boss man,"
Benson called out.
"Who the is going to pay for the food? Not me, I hope."
"I don't know why in the not,"
Ryan replied quickly.
"Since you're not doing a damn thing to earn your money, you might as well share it with us."
"Like hell I will," Benson answered. The driver glanced in his mirror as he wondered about the three men he was ordered to drive around. There was no doubt in his mind about their importance. It wasn't every day that 3 officers came from out of state. Whatever case they were on had to be an important one. Maybe, he hoped, if he played his cards right, he might come out of this thing with a promotion. When the men arrived at the restaurant that Evans had directed them to, Ryan invited the driver inside with them for lunch, but the man declined, saying he would stay and listen for any police calls that might be of interest to them. After a quick briefing, Ryan got out of the car. The 3 men entered the restaurant together. They took their time ordering, since they didn't have anything else to do. When the meals came, they sat and toyed with their food like little children.
You know,
Benson began,
I feel like a complete ass.
here we are, out-of-town policemen, while they got a damn good police force right here. They need our help about as much as a dog needs fleas.
It's not as bad as all that.
Evans said quietly.
I know how you feel, though. Here we don't have a thing to do, but once we go over to the federal building, we're going to have to spend some time briefing a lot of officers on whatever we know about the suspects.
And that's damn little,
Ryan stated loudly.
We don't really know a thing more than any other policeman who had read up on his case.
That may be true,
Evans admitted.
but the bigwigs don't look at it that way.
The 3 men laughed, then argued over who would pick up the check. It didn't matter, though. They were all carrying expense money. Evans was finally ordered by the other 2 to pay for the meal, since federal men made more money than regular police officers. When they returned to the police car, Evans asked the driver to take them over to the federal building. The drive was short, and before they had time to light a cigarette, they had arrived. As soon as they parked, the radio began to hum. The driver turned up the volume so that everybody in the car could hear the call.
A gunfight involving a Buick convertible with license number LIC 9294 is underway. A Cadillac with unidentified license number was believed to be in the gunfight also.
The police over the box said.
Damn!
Evans managed to say.
I believe that's our people!
He was yelling loudly.
Driver,
Ryan snapped out.
get us over to the scene of that gunfight as quick as this buggy will move.
He turned in the seat and grinned at his 2 partners. Evans was busy checking the license number he had just heard against the numbers he had written down inside his notebook.
Yeah,
Evans said excitedly.
those are our boys, all right. There's no dull moments when Kenyatta's around.
I just hope they pin those bastards down, Benson prayed as the car leapt away from the curb.
What about the siren?
The driver asked.
Is it all right if I turn it on? Damn right.
Ryan said, his voice pitched to a high note of excitement.
What do you think went down?
Benson asked as all 3 of the men waited impatiently to arrive at the scene of the shootout.
Probably some patrol car picked up the hot license numbers. They went out immediately to all law enforcement agencies.
Evan answered, his eyes bright with the rising tension. The driver pulled out all stops. He pushed the gas pedal to the floor and raced dangerously through the slow-moving traffic. As soon as he cleared the downtown area, he pulled up on the freeway and continued to drive as though all their lives were in danger. The cars on the freeway pulled over to the right and let the speeding, wailing car through.
About how long will it be before we get there?
Ryan asked the driver. The driver hesitated, then replied,
We should be getting there in another 5 minutes. Good.
Ryan answered, then removed his gun and started checking the loads. 2 other officers began to do the same thing. As they rode, Benson prayed silently for the Lord to make it possible for them to end their chase today. If only Kenyatta would be driven into a dead-end street or something. Anything that he couldn't get out of.
Any other damn crook would have been captured by now. But Kenyatta seemed to live a charmed life. "I'll bet that bastard gets away before we even get there," Benson said gloomily. Ryan glanced back at him.
With your f***ing outlook, our long shot hasn't a chance of paying off. It might not be such a long shot after all,
Evans stated.
If a couple of patrol cars are on their ass, they don't have any chance of getting away.
Suddenly, their radio exploded with noise. Then an officer's voice was heard pleading.
"Help! This is a code alert! 2 officers are down! 2 officers are down with gunshot wounds! We need help immediately!"
The sounds of the gunshots were clearly heard over the radio. It was as though someone had leaned down into the police car where the call was coming from and opened fire.
Damn! Damn! The police killing son of a... Damn it! Motherfucker! Damn!
Ryan's voice was all choked up as he cursed.
"Step on it, driver!"
Evans called out sharply from the back seat.
"We ain't got all day!"
The remark irritated the driver, but he didn't reply. He just pushed his foot down harder on the gas pedal. The traffic cleared up in front of them, and he neatly went in and out of 2 cars that were slowing down to let him pass. "I got a feeling we're gonna be too late," Benson said again, but this time there were no comments. Chapter 11. After making a telephone call, Kenyatta walked slowly back to the car Jug was in. The morning traffic was beginning to get lighter as most of the early morning workers had already made their way to work. "Jug, we ain't got that much farther to go. You want to let Eddie B drive while you take a break and ride with me?" Without hesitation, Jug agreed. He was tired of listening to Red's screams, so anything would be better than having to put up with the wounded man. "Yeah, Ken, it might just give my nerves the break they need," he said as both men started back toward the Cadillac. Kenyatta leaned down toward the rear window. "Eddie, how about you relieving Jug? He's tired after driving on the highway all night. I might just let Betty take over in this one." Eddie B climbed out the car with his woman, Jeannie, right behind him. The short, dark-complexioned woman looked like a man as she got out. The pantsuit she wore did not help any. Jeannie was husky, and when she spoke, her voice was as heavy as a man's.
"How much further do we have to ride?"
she asked Kenyatta as she climbed out. "Not much further," he replied, watching the street traffic for any signs of danger.
"Good,"
Jeannie said as she tried to rub some of the sleep out of her eyes. Her short natural was messed up while her eyes had become bloodshot from lack of proper rest. "You're gonna need some gas in that piece," Jug told Eddie B as the man started toward the car in the back of them. Eddie B stopped and waited to hear what Kenyatta had to say. "I need refueling myself, so just follow me into whatever gas station I pick out," Kenyatta said. There was a loud scream that made all 3 of the men jump. Its sound was eerie in the morning air.
"Damn! That scared the shit out of me!"
Eddie B said truthfully. "It's only Red," Jug stated calmly. "He's been doing that for the past hour or so." Even as Jug spoke, the car door opened and his woman, Almeda, came out. She looked exhausted.
"Down?"
she cursed as she came abreast of the men.
"Red seems to be getting worse."
"Well, there ain't a damn thing we could do for him here," Kenyatta stated honestly. "If we push on, maybe in an hour or so we'll be somewheres where we could get some help for him. But as long as we're on the road, ain't shit we could do for him but pray our luck holds out." "Yeah, man," Jug said as Eddie B started to walk back toward the car he was supposed to drive.
I've been wondering for the past hour if they got these license numbers yet. Kenyatta shook his head. It's hard to guess on that, Chuck. I know by now they should have reached the people stranded out at the ranch, so it's likely that they do have the numbers. It must have took us 4 good hours or more to make this drive, so we can't do nothing but hope for the best while keeping our guns at the ready. I'll buy that, my man. If it goes down, I'd rather hold court out here in the streets than let them motherfuckers get me down to one of them stations and throwing the motherfucking book at me. Shh, Jug continued. It ain't no kind of doubt in my mind what kind of time we're gonna get. They might even bring back the death penalty for our ass. You can bet your ass on it, Jug, Kenyatta replied. These white motherfuckers would love nothing better than to see us sitting in the motherfucking hot chair. As Kenyatta spoke, he reached out and opened the car door on the driver's side. I guess we had best be getting on, Jug started, around the car with his woman following him. They didn't speak anymore until after they got in the car. Then it was Almeda who broke the silence. She began.
I wish we can make it to the damn hideout without stopping for gas. The way Red's acting up back there, it's gonna be touch and go if we have to pull into a damn gas station.
Maybe we could find a gas station with a black attendant working, Kenyatta said. That way, we stand a better chance. Niggas ain't as suspicious as whites. If a honk sees Red stretched out on the car seat yelling his head off, he's gonna call the police station the first chance he gets. I don't know why you think a brother is gonna be any different, Chuck said. Shit. Nowadays, the niggas are just as bad as the... They see a chance to get their black faces smeared across one of their deadly newspapers, and damn, you had better watch out. The black motherfucker will bust his own mother for the motherfucking chance. Betty laughed harshly.
It ain't got that bad yet, Jug. Damn, man. Give our people a little break,
she said jokingly. I'll give them a motherfucking break, all right. I'll break their motherfucking necks if one of them gets in my damn way, Jug answered seriously. Ever since he had been busted 5 years ago by his rap partners who had been black, Jug had been down on his own people. He didn't give them a chance. He believed they were as bad as the whites, and in many cases, he was right. At that very moment, his mind slid back into the past. He remembered the stick-up where he got away from the robbery, while the 2 men he was with got busted. Before he could get back to the motel to pick up a few pieces of clothes, the police were pulling up in the parking lot. When he came out of his motel room, they had the place surrounded. A huge spotlight pinned him in the doorway as soon as he opened the door to come out. With a quick backward movement, he leapt back inside, but there had been no escape. Within seconds, the windows were shot out, and on the next opportunity they gave him to surrender, he tossed his guns out. He had never forgotten the 2 men who busted him, even though he had never had a chance to pay them back. Kenyatta glanced out the window at an open gas station. Both of the attendants were white, so he kept going. Betty glanced over at the gas gauge, then stared up at her man.
Ain't you getting ready to play it kind of close, honey?
She asked, then added,
If we run out of gas and have to walk and find a station open, we're going to be in big trouble, aren't we?
She waited patiently for his reply. Kenyatta kept his eyes on the road in front of him. Her words had rung a bell inside his head. What if we park near a gas station and walk back for a can of gas, Jug? You think that might work? Jug hesitated before answering, giving the question slow deliberation, which was his way. I don't know, man, he said at last. We would have to make a hell of a lot of trips with a can to fill up both cars with enough gas to make it to where we have to go, wouldn't we? Not really, Kenyatta replied. We ain't gotta go but to Watts. But from here, I don't know if 1 can of gas will be enough for both cars.
It seems like that would draw suspicion on us,
Betty said quietly.
Hell, You have to park near the gas station, and when you came back for the second or third can of gas, the station attendant will have to start wondering why in the hell you didn't drive up and get the rest of it, wouldn't he?
She ended by asking a question again, always making Kenyatta think that he was really solving the problem, while she sometimes led him right up to the answer. "F it," he exclaimed. "I'm tired of this cat and mouse shit anyway. Whatever's going to jump off is going to go down no matter what the f we do. So I'm going to pull into the next station I see open, no matter if the son of a bitch working there is a green man." Kenyatta thus ended all discussion on the problem. Betty sat back in the seat and let out a sigh. It was out of their hands now. Like Kenyatta said, whatever happened would happen. She fingered the large .44 Magnum inside her purse. The gun was heavy, but she liked the way it hit. Once she hit a man, she didn't have to worry about him getting back up too soon. "There's one coming up on your right," Jug called out from the rear seat. Kenyatta had seen the gas station himself, even before Jug spoke, but there was no sense in mentioning the fact. He just drove up into the station silently, not saying a word. He watched the gas station attendant come out. The man was white. "Tell him to put $3 worth in it," he told Betty. She could roll down her window and give the man the order without him having to come all the way around to the car to Kenyatta's window. Betty did as she was told and watched the man as he made his way toward the pumps. As Kenyatta watched the man filling up the tank in the mirror, he saw another attendant walk over to the car Eddie B was driving. In a matter of minutes, he told himself, "We'll be away from here. Everything looks as if it might go off just right." Eddie B had gotten out of the car and was standing in such a way to make it impossible for the man waiting on his car to see who was in the rear. Kenyatta let out a sigh of relief as he saw the man putting the gas into their car start to hang up the hose. The man started toward the front of the car. As Kenyatta began to roll his window down, he noticed a police car swing into the gas station. The officer driving the car drove straight over to the pop machine near the front of the station. One of the policemen got out and started for the machine. It was at this instant that a shrill scream came from the car behind them. Kenyatta could hear it clearly, even though it was muffled, as if someone had tried to stuff something into the screaming man's mouth. The policeman stopped in his tracks. His eyes began to search the area for the sound. Even as he stared around dumbly, the car door behind Kenyatta opened and Red jumped out. In his right hand was a gun. He stared feverishly around. His bloodshot eyes picked up the blue uniform as the policeman stared at the wounded man in total surprise. Before the officer could react, his partner screamed out a warning.
"Watch him, Ed! He's got a gun in his hand!"
The other policeman came bolting out of the driver's side of the car. Seeing the policeman was enough for Ed. He raised a pistol in his hand and fired, but his aim was off. His first bullet missed the shot policeman by a mile. Before he could get off another shot, the second policeman cut him down. The sounds of gunfire hadn't died down when a loud boom rang out. Red's woman had let down the back window and cut the officer down who had shot her man. The fight was on. The first officer jumped for the rear of the car. Eddie B's woman had already taken aim, and before he could reach the safety he sought, 2 slugs from the .38 Special she carried cut him in half. Kenyatta was the first one to notice the third policeman inside the car. The man was busy on the radio. "Damn it!" Kenyatta roared. "There's another one of these motherfuckers motherfuckers in the police car. Betty took aim after letting her window down. The shot from her gun took the policeman in the side of the head. The gas station attendant standing beside their car could only stare in shock at what was going on. Kenyatta kicked the motor over on the large, expensive car, and the caddy came alive with a roar. "Let's get the out of here!" he yelled at Eddie B., who had run around the car and was kneeling down beside the dying Red. At the sound of Kenyatta's voice, Eddie B. jumped back to his feet. Before he could regain the driver's seat, another police car came roaring into the gas station. "Motherfucker!" Kenyatta cursed. "The bastards are like roaches! You kill one, and 100 more come to his funeral!" The police car pulled to the side, blocking the entrance from that direction so that nobody could get past unless they turned around. Eddie B., trapped on the outside of his car, wheeled around with his pistol in his hand. He took a quick shot at the policeman as he tried to snatch the car door open. As Kenyatta drove slowly away from the pumps, the policemen concentrated their gunfire on the second car, believing the first one wasn't involved in a shootout. The call they had heard mentioned only a Buick convertible, so they had no reason to suspect the second car of any wrongdoing. Kenyatta maneuvered their car into an excellent position to cut down the unsuspecting officers. When one of the gas station attendants attempted to warn the policemen of their danger, gunfire from the Cadillac cut him down. The sounds of the gunfire warned the policemen, but it told them about the danger too late. A barrage of bullets cut the officers down in their tracks, but not before they were able to knock Eddie B. off his feet. One of the policemen staggered around from the impact of the gunshots, and the gun in his hands went off. The wild bullet struck the pump. Instantly, everything nearby went up in flames. The white attendant working on the car was completely covered with flames. Screams erupted from the passengers of the car. The two women trapped inside the burning inferno screamed at the top of their lungs. Even as Kenyatta and his party sat watching, the car door burst open and one of the women came running out. She was covered with fire so completely that no one in Kenyatta's car could recognize who she was. Her loud screams continued while she rolled over and over. "Motherfucker!" Jug said in shock from the back seat. "Man, I ain't never seen shit like this before in my life." The flame continued to spread as if it had a life of its own. Betty spoke up suddenly.
"If we don't get out of here, we're going to get trapped in the same fire."
Her voice was shrill. Even as she spoke, flames began to leap out of the pump towards them. Jug screamed from the back. His voice had gone up a notch in his panic. "If we don't move, man, that f***ing pump is gonna go up in a second, and we'll go up with it!" Even as Kenyatta stared out of the window, dumbfounded, flames surrounded the police car, and in seconds, it was a ball of fire. "We're going to have to get through it to get out, man," Kenyatta said as he searched for the safest route out of the flaming death. "Go on through the motherfucker then," Jug ordered harshly from the back. "We don't stand a chance if we keep sitting here." "We don't stand a motherfucking chance if I drive through that wall of flame either," Kenyatta yelled back. Suddenly, he spotted a small chance for them. The garage door was open, and it led toward the rear of the garage, which was wide open. So far, the flames hadn't moved over and consumed the building. With a vicious twist of the wheel, Kenyatta swung the car around in a quick turn and drove straight through the door. Even as the big car picked up speed, a line of fire was leaping toward their only means of escape.
Oh, sweet motherfucker.
Betty prayed.
Don't let it end like this. Please, Lord.
Kenyatta gritted his teeth and stomped down on the gas pedal. From the angle he had been at, he could only see that both doors of the garage were open. He didn't know if any of the racks were up or in the way. If so, there was going to be one hell of a wreck. He made the sharp turn and the big car started through the open doors. With a sigh of relief, he noticed at once that nothing seemed to be in their way. In seconds, they were through and rushing up the small alley. Just in time, too. From behind them came the sound of the huge explosion. Jug glanced back out of the car window and cried wildly.
God damn, man! If we hadn't gotten out when we did, we'd be fried little dingus right now! That motherfucker blew sky high!
From the mirrors on the car, Kenyatta could see what kind of death they had just escaped. Well, we barely made it. Looks like Lady Luck is still smiling down on some of us.
You could say that again.
Betty said.
Even to the point that you saved $3. That poor ass attendant never did collect his money.
The rest of the people in the car laughed, letting out the tension that had gripped them so hard. Almeda spoke up for the first time.
I still can't believe we made it,
she said honestly. Why don't you try pitching yourself to find out if you're still with the living then? Jug said to her with a laugh.
Honey,
she answered.
I'm so glad we switched cars. I don't know what to do if we hadn't. That could have been us back there instead of Eddie being his woman, you know.
I know, honey, Jug replied, but I guess it just wasn't our time. Jug leaned over and took his woman into his arms.
Hey,
Betty said jokingly.
We can't have none of that kind of shit going on. Not until all of us can indulge anyway,
she stated with a laugh. Thank you, Lord, Kenyatta said under his breath as he came to the end of the alley and started to pull out. An unmarked police car went rushing past. The sound of the siren screaming loudly in the morning wind flooded the air. The three plainclothes men inside the car stared intently out the window. One of the policemen in the back seat jerked his finger at the car coming out of the alley.
Hey!
Evans said.
There's a late model Cadillac coming out of that alley back there.
He glanced back at the car window in time to see the car disappearing as it turned toward the freeway.
What the hell do you want us to do about it?
Ryan asked.
Stop every Cadillac we see?
He hesitated, then added.
This call is too important for us to stop now, Evans. If it's there when we come back, we can check on it then.
You don't have to worry about it being there.
Evans replied.
I just saw it turn off onto the freeway.
A little later on in the day, Ryan would remember this conversation. But at the moment, his mind was too busy on what was ahead of them.
Damn!
He cursed from the front seat.
It looks like the whole damn city is on fire in front of us, don't it?
The other men in the car strained their eyes to see in seconds the full picture of the horrible inferno. The driver drove as close to the fire as possible, then parked and let the plainclothes officers out. The men approached on foot. Other policemen had arrived before them. The detectives flashed their badges. 20 minutes later, the three detectives began to question witnesses. It wasn't until they talked to their third witness that they heard about the Cadillac that had briefly escaped the fire. The witness told them about the way the huge car had gone through the building right before the explosion. Benson cursed. He remembered instantly the car coming out of the alley as they rushed past. He didn't mention it to his partner, though. Ryan had enough on his mind already without any guilt feelings being added. He glanced at Evans. The younger detective only shook his head. "It goes like that at times," Benson said to Evans. Ryan overheard the remark and turned on the two men. There was a look of pain in his eyes.
"I'm not a fool,"
he said at once.
"so I'm not trying to fool myself. There was a damn good chance that the car Evans saw held Kenyatta or whichever members of his gang were left. It could be that Kenyatta went up in that flame too."
Benson only nodded. "Yeah, man, there's that chance." But deep down, he knew that their luck wouldn't be that good. A man like Kenyatta wouldn't die that easily. No, they wouldn't get off the hook like that. It would take some more bloodshed like tonight before Kenyatta was brought to his knees. In the meantime, the only thing they could do would be to continue tracking down their dangerous foe. One day, though, Benson believed, they would come face to face with their sworn enemy. And when that happened, he only hoped his finger would be near the trigger of his gun. In all his life, Benson had never really hated any of the men he had brought in. But this time, for reasons he couldn't even understand, he hated the man he chased with a passion. Chapter 12. On the California freeway, Kenyatta drove the big car at a reasonable speed. He didn't want to attract any undue suspicion. He was silent as he let his thoughts wander. When he had left Detroit, he had 10 people with him. Now he had 4. They had cut him down to size, but he wouldn't let that get him down. What he hated was that he had lost a lot of well-trained people. People who had the nerve it took to continue their private war on dope pushers and killing policemen. No matter, he reasoned, in time he would train some more dedicated black men and women, and then he would continue because there were no doubts in his mind about their cause. As long as men put on uniforms and took out their racial dislike on poor people, he would continue his war on them. There was no reason to wait for the courts to cut them loose after they had killed some 14-year-old black kid. No, it didn't have to go that far. Not if he could help it.
"Honey,"
Betty said from her side of the car.
"aren't we damn near there?"
She spoke in that husky voice of hers. He glanced out of the corner of his eyes at the intelligent black woman who would follow him through hell if he asked her to. Yes, he reasoned, as long as people like her believed in him, he would continue. He noticed the ramp ahead of him. It was the one leading to Watts. In a matter of minutes, he was pulling up in front of an old house. He parked the car and got out into the sunlight. He felt the strong rays of the sun on his black skin, and it felt good. He was alive, and he still had people who believed in him. It wouldn't be long before he was back on his feet. Betty came around the car, and he took her arm. Jug fell in step behind him, carrying an overnight bag. They walked away from the Cadillac and toward the main drag. All the faces they passed were black, and that made him feel good. This was prime territory for recruiting, so it wouldn't take long at all. No, indeed. With the money they had in the bag Betty carried, it wouldn't take long at all. Before he was finished, Los Angeles would know that he had arrived. And he'd bet his last dollar on that against a bucket of shit.
Honey,
Betty said.
what we gonna do when we get there?
Kenyatta was silent for a moment, concentrating on the road ahead of the speeding car. Then he glanced over at his woman and smiled. "Same thing we've always done, honey," he replied. "Only our job's just a little bit harder this time. We got to get this organization set up all over again."
Then we got to get more people, right?
"Right. And we'll get them easy enough. There's lots of blacks who feel the same way as we do, and they'll make good organization people. It won't be long, and then we'll be in business again." The car speeded toward Watts. Kenyatta and his crew escapes. That don't end shit. We'll be back in business to witness Kenyatta's last hit. Thank you for tuning in to Ralph Reads right here on TURN, the United Ronin Networks on YouTube. I would like, or rather love, to thank you, queens and kings, fellow royalty, for stopping by. If you would like to leave a small donation or connect with me on social media, please go to www.solo.to/RGMC2407 or find me right here on YouTube via the music channel at RGMC2407 or TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Fellow royalty, pick up a good book, read a good story, and set your good self free. I appreciate you, and I love you like cooked food. I wish to see you folks on the next edition of Ralph Reads. If you're not a dunce and will listen to advice at least once, always watch your back, but also watch your front.